Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to those joining us from further away. It's so great to see so many of you online today. Welcome to our webinar, How to Navigate the Evolving Business Travel Landscape. My name is Tim Craxton, and I'll be your host for today. I'm also part of the product marketing team here at Cvent. Before we begin, just go over a few housekeeping items. On the right side of your screen, you can join the chat. You can submit questions in the Q&A, and you can also download this slide deck for your reference in the resources section. For our webinar today, we're going to be focusing on some key resources that we've published over the last few months. With the 2025 sourcing season in full swing, this is a great time to refresh ourselves on the current trends and studies for the corporate travel industry. I'll be looking at some of the highlights from our Travel Manager report that we published earlier this year, and taking another look at the GBTA technology report that we produced in conjunction with GBTA. With a great snippet from the Cvent Travel Summit, this year hosted in person during Cvent Connect in San Antonio. And to close up, we'll provide links to some other useful resources. So let's dive in. We all know that the corporate travel industry has had a few very difficult years. Just look at the dip for 2020 and 2021 in this graph from the GBTA Business Trends Outlook. However, we've turned a corner and things are looking up. GBTA expect global business travel spending to reach an all-time high of 1.48 trillion by the end of 2024, surpassing pre-pandemic levels for the first time. And it's really exciting to see that by the end of 2028, it's projected to climb beyond $2 trillion. But that's total travel spend. And we're interested mostly in lodging today. So when you look at this breakdown of the average spend per trip, you can see how just important lodging is. It's by far the largest portion of spending for a business trip. And that's why it's so vital to ensure that you're securing those preferred rates during this negotiation period. The GBTA Outlook is also backed up by our own data coming out of our Cvent Travel and Transient platform. This is a fairly busy graph, but you can see that the 2024 program year, shown in purple, is outpacing 2023 by around 8%. And 2025 is continuing the trend and is currently pacing around 12% ahead of 2024. So why are we doing this webinar now? Well, simply put, it's the perfect time to recap these trends and insights as you're stepping into that new sourcing season. And as you can see from the data from our platform, nearly half of all travel programs start sourcing in the fall. So before we get into some of the data, let's just remind those new folks online about why Cvent is leading the market for both event management and also group and transient business and hospitality. We have a powerful network effect. We bring together huge numbers of event planners, marketers, and travel managers and connect them with hospitality professionals across the globe. And diving deeper into the sourcing world, we provide solutions for both group, business, and corporate travel. Last year, there was over $16 billion sourced through our network, and travel managers in almost 2,000 travel programs sent over 936,000 RFPs for corporate travel. We literally live and breathe this industry. So let's dive into some of the data. As I reference different reports in this webinar, I've added a QR code to the slide for those of you who are interested in reading the full report, as I'll only be touching on a few highlights from each. So let's start off with our Travel Managers report. In February and March of this year, Cvent partnered with Censuswide to survey over 500 corporate travel decision makers across North America. The research aimed to uncover insights into travel managers' expectations for the business travel industry in 2024 and their intentions and preferences for sourcing activities. Now, as we've already discussed, there's a really positive outlook for corporate travel. And this is echoed by the positive sentiment from the travel managers surveyed. Our report found that 83% of respondents were somewhat positive or very positive about the state of the business travel. Also, 76% expected 2024 travel volume to somewhat increase or significantly increase year over year. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not going to be easy. Budgets are being squeezed in every direction, and travel managers have said that negotiations are happening more often with more hotels. 71% of travel managers surveyed expect business travel costs to be higher, but they're also negotiating hard. 40% of travel managers stated that costs and rates are a reason for not re-accepting hotels for their travel program. In our report, 55% said negotiating a price with hotels is more difficult because hotels are not as flexible in their pricing models. Something to think about. And later, we'll see why good relationships are so vital when trying to negotiate your preferred rates. We've got to make it work for both the travel manager and the hotel. Now, the increase in travel volume, more frequent negotiations, and the desire to consider different pricing models are some of the reasons why 30% of travel managers have spent more time using technology for their travel programs this past year. Travel managers rely on technology more to deal with the complexities of sourcing hotels. 40% say negotiating is the most difficult stage of the sourcing process, while 29% say comparing proposals is more difficult. Just goes to show the value of having everything coming together in one central location rather than scattered across multiple systems. When it comes to negotiation and technology, using a tool like Cvent's Negotiation Assistant can help. It enables travel managers to negotiate based on historical and predictive future rates to ensure they achieve the most competitive rates possible. And for suppliers, chains can set predefined rate plans, establish negotiated rate parameters, and better manage negotiations using our Cvent Transient platform. This is a great segue into our next report that we produced in conjunction with GBTA, all about examining technology in the corporate travel industry. So once again, you can scan the QR code to download the full report, and the report looked at four main areas. Firstly, travel program technology, obviously. So while virtually all travel programs use core technology, such as an online booking tool, adoption of other tools varies somewhat. How often do travel programs use tools such as single-use virtual payments or reshopping and off-channel booking capture? The report not only looked at travel program technology, but also technology strategy for travel programs. Do travel programs do a good job with technology? What percentage of their overall budget do they spend on technology? Will spending on technology increase in the coming year? How many travel programs have a dedicated travel technology manager? For hotel technology, are hotels professionals satisfied with the technology that they use? And also emerging technology. Are industry professionals familiar with emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, NDC, virtual reality? And are they interested in these applications, potential applications of technologies within managed corporate travel? So let's look at some of the findings. First up is related to strategy for travel managers. The growing reliance on technology is actually driving new roles. According to the respondents that were surveyed, a third of travel programs, around 29%, now have full-time employees who focused primarily on tech-related responsibilities, which could include sourcing new digital tools, configuring booking and expensing solutions, managing data collection, or driving technology transformation across their travel program. Now, it's obvious why, managing technology demands a different skill set, different training, than managing relationships with travel suppliers. And this person might have a background in IT, and typically we're seeing that they're part of the travel program. Travel managers who say they had such a role, more than half said this role is housed within the travel department, and fewer, about 23%, said it's hosted within the IT department. This is more common, though, at large corporations, large companies. 2 in 5 travel managers, 42% of at large companies with more than 20,000 employees, said their company had a travel technology manager. And it's considerably higher than the smaller corporations, which is about 21%. And that's those with 5,000 or less employees. It's also more common in Europe. More than 1/3 of Europe-based travel managers say that their company had this role. And this compares to 1 in 5 for North American travel managers. More than just having a dedicated travel technology manager, some programs are taking it a step further. Almost half of travel programs have at least one tech tool that they've built internally, either in-house or with help from a third-party developer. This could be a mobile app, an approved tool, or a booking tool, among other things. Now, I would actually love to hear from you if your company has this in-house tool. Put it in the chat. What is it used for? Is it mostly used for analytics or bringing together data from different systems? With some of the new development we've done in our transient and travel platform, we're moving towards more flexible APIs and also looking at new reports to provide better marketplace intelligence and other insights. This is more prevalent for large companies, once again, with more than 20,000 employees, and almost 2 in 5, 57% said their company has internally developed travel technologies, a lot less for the smaller corporations. Now, looking at technology itself, the highest proportion obviously uses RFP technology. That's why we're here, right? Less than I would have thought, but hey, maybe that doesn't include those that outsource to TMCs. But 36% of travel programs also use hotel reshopping. Now, this is down 6 points from 2 years ago. We actually saw during the pandemic a slight shift towards more dynamic rates. And this is the reason why a reshopping platform might be used. But recently, we've seen the trend overwhelmingly go back to fixed rates, which help budget controls as you know what rates you'll have for the whole year. Now, moving on to the supplier side, there's definitely room for improvement when it comes to tech. 27% of suppliers said they have room to improve with tech or at their starting blocks, more than buyers and TMCs. But 74% did, however, say that they're at the cutting edge or doing a good job. We need to get those other hoteliers up to scratch. And it's much better for TMCs. There's only 15% said they had room to improve with tech. 84% are at the cutting edge or do a good job. And it's obvious that managing such large volumes of travel programs require a platform like Cvent Travel and Transient to keep everything in order. So going to the hotel perspective and what technology they use, well, it's no surprise that pretty much every hotel uses a PMS system. And a large proportion also use a transient platform like Cvent Transient. But there are other key software solutions that have been adopted a little bit less, such as room block management software or event diagramming software. These can provide enormous benefits to hotels and help with huge efficiencies and help increase their RevPAR. Our Cvent Passkey platform, for example, recently released an intelligent rooming list assistant that automatically maps all the columns of a rooming list to the required fields for a hotel. This is saving our hotel customers hours of time that previously was spent typing in rooming list manually or constantly going back and forth with a planner over email. But hey, we're here to talk about corporate travel. However, our travel manager report did say that travel managers more often now are pulling double duty with managing corporate travel and events. 90% of travel managers are also involved in sourcing hotels and venues for their meetings and events programs, in addition to sourcing hotels and venues for employee travel. So, hey, maybe some of you are interested in those room block management and event diagramming solutions. So to close off the technology report, we've obviously got to talk about AI. No one can get away from it these days. AI can make it easier for hotels to serve guests. But on the other hand, it might actually hurt guest relations. So we've got to be careful. Even if an AI concierge provides the same recommendations as human concierge, it might not feel the same. As humans, we naturally form connections with other humans. It might explain why hotel professionals have mixed opinions about AI concierges and front desk agents, and also AI-enabled conversational booking. At Cvent, we are embracing AI, but only where it makes sense. There's no value in adding AI just for the sake of adding AI, unless it actually helps solve a problem or adds value. A couple of AI additions we recently announced include an AI-enabled search for our sourcing network, and also an AI agenda building to help you fill out those RFPs based on historical RFPs that you've already completed. So try to help. So, all right, let's take a breather. I know you're eager to hear from more than just me, so let's dive into perspectives from industry experts who can offer valuable insights. At our recent annual travel summit, which this year, as I mentioned, was hosted in person for the very first time at Cvent Connect, we had some incredible conversations that I think you'll find really insightful. Luckily, most of these discussions were recorded, and I've compiled a quick snippet from our session on cultivating stronger sourcing relationships. But feel free to scan the QR code that'll take you to the full on-demand video if you want to listen to the whole 45 minutes and dive in a little bit more after our webinar. So in this snippet, we're going to hear from Tracy Volpe, our Senior Manager, Customer Success at Cvent. She's moderating the session. We're also going to hear from Nina Marcello, Client Portfolio Lead at Amex GBT, Kate Nomikoski, the Global Director of Sales at Hyatt, and also our very own Brian Sullivan, Vice President of Product Management here at Cvent.
So let's talk about the importance of travel, and the importance of relationships in travel. Nina, you want to kick us off?
I couldn't say that better, right? Let's say it again. There's such an importance of relationships in travel, because without it, we're really just managing the numbers. And I know that we all heard in the last session how important the data is, and Brian knows that I really support the importance of data. But without that relationship, I think it's missing a link. So I think that there has to be strength behind those relationships. You have to know that you're working with partners that are bringing honest results, they're bringing integrity to the partnership, and they really support our goals. So I think that saying that relationship is important, we should be shouting it.
I love that. I'll add on a couple of things in terms of why these relationships are so crucial to what we do. I want to start by just sharing, and I work for Hyatt, so I'm a little biased in some things that are part of our DNA and culture, but our CEO always explains that we have this kind of superpower, our purpose within our hotels, and that's that we care for people so that they can be their best. And that goes for all of the people that we interact with. So that's going to be everyone that's here in this room today, everyone that's on the stage with me. It's for all of our travel partners, buyers, managers. It's for every individual guest that's traveling to our hotels. We certainly want to extend care to them at every interaction. We know they're away from their family and friends, but we want to extend it to our meeting partners as well. So there's a lot of different aspects of how we demonstrate that care. You talked about kind of the deeper relationships, right, and really building that. We want to become these kind of trusted advisors for our customers so that they can understand where we're coming from, we can understand where they're coming from, and you can take things and conversations to a deeper level to really know that there's this human element to everything we're doing, and to keep that kind of at the forefront. I think that we've heard a lot already about AI today. We just heard about it in the previous session. Certainly, Reggie shared a lot about that at the opening keynote. I'm here to remind you that there's a human element to everything we're doing, and that having those authentic conversations is still really important in our business. So while we can use tools like AI, and certainly that's not going away, but just remembering that there's always a human being at the end of that Cvent response. We're using technology for so much, but there's still a real human that's evaluating that information, and you want to be able to have those really meaningful conversations, and that comes from building a strong relationship.
And working at it every day, right? Being a trusted advisor just doesn't happen overnight. Yes. You have to work at it every day.
Mm-hmm. Brian, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I have I think a different perspective on this as someone that sort of sits in the middle as a tech provider. I think what we're focused on really is leveraging technology for relationship support and facilitation. So how do we strengthen the relationships that already exist? And then sometimes, how do we create relationships where there are no relationships? And that's something that's very important to us. And there's really three things that I think about when I think about this. One is, how can we better promote transparency between buyer and seller? How do we surface information to help buyers and suppliers understand where the other party is and ultimately what their objectives are in the process. Secondly is seamlessness. So how do we deliver data seamlessly back and forth between buyer and supplier? Because we want to maximize the amount of time that these guys have in maximizing their relationships. So seamlessness is very important to us too. And then this has been said numerous times, but I can't not say it, being data-driven, right? Being data-driven to help understand the relationship, where it's at, to assess the relationship, and what you need to do going forward so that ultimately you can put your best foot forward in the partnership.
So we're talking about being strategic in what rate type you have, but then there's the sourcing strategy. So there's the typical that I think we're all used to, a few months sourcing, whether you have a calendar year, off calendar year, it's that fixed time of a few months and you're doing your sourcing annually. But then we started hearing in the last couple of years, what's creeping up more and more is continuous sourcing. And that's a different strategy of how are we gonna source our rates. So I wanna ask the group here, what do you think of, which way do you see working better? Do you think there's a place for both? But before we do that, I'd like to hear, before you give your answer, what does continuous sourcing mean to you? Because I would almost bet there's at least a couple dozen.
Well, we talked about it just amongst this group, and we all have a slightly different view of what continuous sourcing means. So as I mentioned to you, I'm absolutely a fan of continuous sourcing, especially when we follow the session that was right before us, where they talked about how readily data is available. So if you know there's changes in your program and it's emerging, why not action on it? So for me, continuous sourcing is, again, another form of communication, another form of partnership. It's looking at where you have emerging needs and filling those needs. It's looking at where your corporate program might not be adequately supporting you and fixing that. It does not mean beating up your vendor partners. It does not mean doing sourcing that isn't needed to save a dollar. The work effort that you put into that is so much more, where I think that people think that they can take their data and retaliate, and one day I didn't get my negotiated rate, so that means I have to continuous source. That's really not how it is. It's making your program better by the use of data. That's my vision for continuous sourcing, but I know yours is similar and a little bit different.
Yes, and I think the first thing I think about with what is my definition or what is the supplier definition, I want to ask my customers what their definition is, because we know that there are different ways that they look at things. So it's not about how I want to have a continuous sourcing model, it's about what the client wants, right? That's what we should be asking. I think that was something Reggie mentioned earlier today. We got to listen to our customers, and that's such a key component of everything we're talking about today in these relationships. From my perspective, I've seen it done so many different ways, right? It might be the idea of having a dynamic evergreen rate that you negotiate it, and either party can come back to the table at any given time and say, this discount in this market isn't working for us. But there are others that just kind of want to constantly look at whether it's new openings or if they have new locations or new travel, demand locations that they want to add, they might look at it on a quarterly basis, and we might have those conversations. So I think the first thing is just really understanding who you're working with and what their definition is. It doesn't matter what I think. But I think another thing that we need to keep in mind is that if we have these long-standing relationships, we've built this rapport, we've spent time with them, hopefully face-to-face, right? Face-to-face meetings are important. But we've built these the ability to have conversations as needed, right? I don't need to wait for a quarterly business review with a customer to say, hey, I'm seeing demand in this market and we don't have a presence, or you're not getting the availability you need, or the rates aren't where you want them. I can pick up the phone and call them at any point when that's happening, and they will absolutely do the same for me. So when you, again, build those relationships, the foundation of all of it, continuous sourcing can really just be that you are having those conversations as needed throughout the year, and you don't have to do a one-stop shop.
You have that continuous sourcing definition like you were talking about, Nina. If you're going to go back and forth with your suppliers throughout the year, up and down, that in and of itself is going to break the foundation of your relationship.
Absolutely.
And it can go both ways. Think about it. If a buyer's going to go and go after that supplier and try to change that rate, get it down because the market has gotten really soft, well, then, I would caution and be careful, because when it flips and comes back, the supplier's going to do the same thing.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think one more thing on the supplier perspective is I think that maybe there's a thought that it's time saving. If we have this continuous model, we don't have to do this whole full RFP process once a year, and that feels like an arduous task. But if you can kind of do it, it doesn't always help the hotels to have it ongoing. We still have hotel teams that are not what they used to be, not what the levels were staffing-wise of 2019 and before. So we're all trying to do a little bit more with a little bit less. So if you're constantly coming and asking for updates on rates or amenities, inclusions, whatever it may be, we may not have the resources. So sometimes that once a year annual process can actually be a benefit, because then we can really kind of focus our time and energy in that time frame and not be thinking about it every day of the entire year.
Well, we're also still working with systems that only allow you to load rates so many days out. So when we talk about continuous sourcing, it doesn't mean fix it and forget it and never touch it. You do have to touch it every year, and that's where your technology comes in.
Yeah, I'm just grinning because I'm hearkening back to conversations I've had with a single customer where it was an hour meeting and continuous sourcing turned into code speak for this annual process drives me absolutely crazy and I want to stop doing it, right? But again, sometimes you solve a pain point and you just open another pain point. And so you do have to, I think, be careful. My perspective from a tech perspective is, this is a difficult question for me to answer. I have talked to customers about it, a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different desired workflows, customer processes, and frankly, it's hard really when you think about technology to advance it at scale. When you have 130 or 140 hoteliers and you have dozens and dozens of demand side clients that ultimately think it's something different, right? So from our perspective, the way we look at this is we try to, when we talk to our customers, we go back to the root of conversations, which is to, what are the problems you're ultimately experiencing? And we talk to as many customers as we can, and we try to solve those problems to scale, right, as best we can. And if we can do that, then I think from a technology perspective, ultimately we'll be the better for it in serving the industry.
I just love that conversation about relationships. It was great to hear that, continuous sourcing is more about a continuous relationship rather than continuous negotiation. Okay. I understand we covered a lot of ground today over the past few minutes, and I'm sure many of you have fresh perspectives and insights to take back to your teams. But before we conclude, I want to ensure that you have the necessary resources to plan and execute your strategies effectively, helping you achieve your business goals. We believe in equipping you with the tools you need to succeed. For those of you looking to dive deeper into how data can transform your marketing and business strategies, our ebook, Hotel Data 101, offers comprehensive insights. It's your go-to guide for leveraging data to elevate your hotel's performance. Just scan the QR code once again to download that report. While this presentation is focused on travel managers and business travel, we know many of you joining are also involved in the meeting and events side of the house in some capacity. Over 126,000 planners are using our platforms and technology, providing us with significant data and insights. We share that data with our hoteliers, our suppliers, and venues through our Cvent Source webinars and reports. In them, we analyze the latest trends in the industry, along with our powerful event management and hospitality data straight from our platform. Stay updated on planner sourcing behavior, observations from third-party experts in the hospitality space, recent RFP volume trends, ADR analysis by market, chain scale, organization type, insights on conversion trends, meeting size. There's so much in there. Just scan the QR code to see the latest Cvent Source report. Now, we're thrilled to announce that Cvent will be at IMEX America 2024, and we can't wait to meet you. Just visit our booth, come and see us to discover how we can help you plan and succeed in 2025 and beyond. We've got lots of technology solutions that can help you across so many areas, whether it's engage more high quality prospects, close more leads in less time, simplify manual processes to design and execute successful events, identify and act on opportunities and with using real-time data. Just come and see us at IMEX to explore how we can help you win more business and manage your events more efficiently. And with that, our time together is almost at an end. But first, for those of you who would like to earn a $100 Amazon gift card, please sign up to complete a demo with us. We'll pop that link into the chat, and this can be converted from $100 to any other currency available of your choosing for those of you outside of the US. So I'll be sending a link to this on-demand presentation out tomorrow, so you can return to it as often as you like or share it with your colleagues. And with that, have a great rest of your day and see you soon.